I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm not trying to be sensational, but I do think this might be the most important video I ever make on YouTube. And the topic is, don't be a hero. Take no more risk than what you need to achieve your financial goals, particularly as you get closer to reaching financial independence. So let's talk about this. You know, I've worked in the industry for a long time. And, you know, as people get close to reaching their financial independence, their financial number, right? We've talked about compounding. I've had a video on the rule of 72 that talks about how long it takes to double. You know, and if you can reach your financial independence and then you can just double it one more time, that can create a lot of nice things for your family. That can be awfully tempting, right? If you can get a 7.2% rate of return on your investments, if you cannot touch that money for 10 years, in theory, it's going to double over that period of time. And that can change the lives of not just you and your retirement, but the lives of your kids and grandkids. So it's a temptation that I see. Now, here's the thing, 7.2% is not a small number. And so you're probably taking more risk than what you need to take in order to achieve a goal that, yeah, it'd be nice, but how important is it, right? When you're younger, you can afford to take more risk. If the market goes down, you can ride it out. You have more time, you're earning money. But as you approach your 50s and 60s, boy, you know, it's awfully hard to replace that if something goes against you. And, you know, life is strange that way. As simple as it may sound to say, well, I've been doing this for 30 or 40 years, just do it for 10 more years and I'll be able to have all this money for my heirs. I just want to caution you on a couple levels. One is, you know, life can throw you a curveball, and those curveballs feel a lot different when you're in your 50s and 60s, and this is it, right? You're not going to be as comfortable with risk, for one. The other is, you know, thinking through, you know, oftentimes I hear the term legacy. You know, I want to leave a legacy behind, not just for my kids, but for my grandkids, and in perpetuity. Well, let me ask you this question. You know, how many billions of people have lived on this earth over time? And how many names do we really know, right, through history? You know, maybe 1,000, at most 10,000, right? I mean, I'm not a historian, but I'd be surprised if there's many people that can name more than 10,000 names in the history of the world that have really left a permanent mark on the world. So I think the whole idea of legacies, you know, we get to touch the lives that we interact with, and that's probably our kids. That might be our nieces and nephews and our grandkids, maybe if we're lucky, our great grandkids. But this idea of a legacy, I think often is a fool's dream. And I don't mean to be negative. I don't mean to be judgmental if that's important to you. But I just don't think many of us are actually going to be able to leave a legacy. You know, maybe if you're if you're Jeff Bezos, you can leave a legacy with that kind of money. But really, you know, what do they really know about you? And, you know, we're all flawed humans, right? I mean, Jeff's legacy is going to have an asterisk next to it for a couple reasons. You know, I think like somebody like Warren Buffett that talks about giving away 99% of his net worth. I think history is going to look at somebody like Warren Buffett much more kindly than somebody like Jeff Bezos. We're so far, you know, as far as I know, there hasn't been a whole lot of charitable intent on Mr. Bezos's part. So anyways, don't risk that which is important to achieve something that's not important. And I think it's really critical to understand that just because you've been comfortable with one level of risk while you've been working doesn't mean that you're going to be comfortable with that level of risk once your earning days are behind. And boy, if you don't recognize that ahead of time and you don't change your asset allocation when in the good times, then when the bad times come, it's going to be super easy to blow out at exactly the wrong time with your investments. So again, don't be a hero. You know, really think about what's important. What are the goals that are important? And I think for you and your spouse, to be financially independent, to be able to have a comfortable life in retirement, to be able to do the things you've always been able to dream of doing while you still have your health. Boy, to me, that's much more important than leaving a legacy behind. Now, if you have a child with special needs or a grandchild or a niece, that's completely different. I completely get that. But to the extent, your kids have got a good education, they've learned to trade on their own. They're thriving in the world. They have a good job. They know how to make things happen. They know how to overcome obstacles. We need to let them do that. That's how we learned, right? So that they can get better at that. And then we can focus on us. I have a video. I don't know if it'll be released before I get this video out, but if it is, I'll post it here. And that is, there are no loans for retirement, right? So as we think about spending, as we think about supporting our adult children, as we think about other causes that we care about, we want to be generous, we want to be helpful, but only to the extent that it is helpful. And sometimes with kids, if we overdo that, it can actually be negative. And we certainly don't want to put our retirement at risk. And you can put your retirement at risk by over supporting adult children. You can also put your retirement at risk by taking on more volatility than you'll be able to withstand later in your life. And you only have to become financially independent once. And once you become financially independent, then it's job number one is keeping that and taking no more risk than what you need to achieve that goal. It's not just, if you're married, it's not just you, it's also your spouse, right? And, when I meet with people face to face, for 3 years we met by Zoom. And I still do this, but sometimes people have their cameras off, and I ask them to turn on their camera when we talk about asset allocation. I ask them to turn on their cameras when we talk about the financial crisis and what they may have done or may have not done in response to the big move in the market was down almost 60%. That is a scary, scary move if you happen to be getting close to retirement. I was fortunate enough to be in my 40s when that happened. But if I had been in my 50s or 60s, as scary as that time period was, it would have been even scarier. Same thing with COVID. Frankly, the market correction during COVID, for me, and I do this professionally, for me was scarier than the market correction in the financial crisis. First, I saw storm clouds on the horizon for the financial crisis. I didn't see the hurricane, the typhoon that was coming in, but I did see storm clouds. So certainly, like everybody, it was a surprise at the extent of that bank contagion that could have taken place and what that could have meant to society. So there was that. But then during COVID, boy, anytime we've had anything like that spreading across the world in the past, they always caught it, and so maybe I was stupid, maybe I was naive, probably both, but I thought that they were going to catch it. I thought there was going to be an 11th hour miracle. So when it actually started spreading quickly here in the United States and they sent people home and the market went down, it was the fastest 30% correction in the history of the stock market. That felt different to me than the financial crisis. And I'd like to say it was because, my past history was they always caught these things at the 11th hour. And this time they did not. But, part of that is I'm now in my 50s. During COVID, I think I was 55. And being 55, these types of things feel different than they do when you're in your 30s and 40s. I remember during Black Monday, 1987, when the market fell 20% in one day. I think I was 22 years old, maybe 22, 23. And I remember thinking, and I was working for a Fortune 500 company at the time. And a lot of the people I worked with were in their 50s and 60s. And I remember thinking, why is everybody talking like it's the end of the world, right? I mean, it was very stressful times. I mean, there were people I worked with that had to go home. It was just so distressing for them. and to talk to their spouse and talk to their broker. And 3 months later, if you had been Rip Van Winkle and fell asleep for 100 days, 100 days later, the market was pretty close to where it was at before. All this to say that volatility feels different. Don't be a hero. Don't stretch for something that may not be important. Don't give up something that's important, your financial independence, to gain something that might be a fool's errand. Trying to leave a legacy behind past our kids and our grandkids probably isn't going to happen no matter how much money that you have. So again, don't be a hero. Don't risk something that's important to gain something that's not. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If it has been, do me a favor, hit the like button. It really does help the algorithm. Reach other people like yourself who hopefully this video can also help. Leave me a comment. I do read the comments. I find them super motivational. So leave me a comment. I love reading them. I try to reply to at least a dozen, if not 2 dozen a day. Let's see what else. I guess that's it. As the kids say, thumbs for like. So do me a favor, hit that like button, and subs for love. Think about subscribing. And until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Use your time wisely.